and welcome to another episode of our program on the campaign against hate speech in Nigeria and, by extension, the world at large, brought to you courtesy Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, IDFP, strongly supported by International Dialogue Center, KAICID. You will agree with me that we have had a lot of episodes on this program, and we'll have many more. And all of these episodes were brought to you through some media. That media is controlled by the journalists, and they are in the field of journalism. We now today want to see what have they done, and what are their contributions, and what are they doing, or what will they do to either promote or prevent hate speech. I want to, on this note, introduce you to today's topic, and that is hate speech and the role of journalists or journalism in totality as a profession. Viewers, as usual, I am Amir Muhammad Jamil Muhammad, the founding director of the Peace and Development Builders Global Initiative and the co-chairman of the Central Coordination Council of the IDFP. With me, as usual, is my co-uncle, Father Stephen Ojapa, MSP of the Sokoto Catholic Diocese and a member of the Central Coordination Council. Father, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Nigerians.
To do this with us are personalities who have measured highly in journalism. We have Mr. Ibrahim Joshua Adamu, who is on my immediate left. He is a member of the Nigeria Union of Journalists. He is also a member of the Nigeria Institute of Public Relations. He is a member of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators. This is the person of Ibrahim Joshua Adamu. You're welcome, sir.
Welcome, viewer. Thank you.
Also on my far right is Alhaj Tajuddin A. Tijani, a veteran journalist and a commentator, and he is of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, Kaduna chapter. Alhaji Tajuddin, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, to begin with Alhaji Tajuddin, who is a journalist?
Ordinarily, you can look at a journalist from many angles. But the most important thing is that a journalist is someone who reports, and that is why you call them reporters.
Okay.
So if you have a reporter, you report news.
Okay.
In journalism calling. Unfortunately, when you talk in the broader sense of journalism, you have a lot of people now that can be called journalists.
Okay.
And this is where there are problems.
Okay.
You have a feature writer who said he's a journalist. He writes feature, he's not a reporter.
Okay.
You have somebody who studied probably a course different from journalism, let's say law, medicine, and all other things, and he writes specifically on those aspects. He's not a journalist.
Okay. Before you give me who is not a journalist,
Yes.
let me go back to Joshua Adamu, who actually is not a journalist. He has begun, but who is not a journalist?
Yeah, to answer or to attempt to answer that question, let me digress a little bit. A journalist, aside from the fact that he is a reporter, he is a trained reporter. A trained reporter, not just a reporter. And not because he's working in a media house, that makes him a journalist. He must be a trained person.
Okay.
That is a journalist.
Okay. Who is not a journalist?
Who is not a journalist is that person who just ventures into it without being trained.
Okay.
And of course, because
What if he's doing well?
it doesn't matter whether he's doing well or not. But the context
and does the training has a minimum standard of what training you would have received? Maybe by a way of qualification to say this is a trained journalist, or just because I have gone to, maybe in the media house, a media house, decide to train me, to give me training on all reporting acts and writing, feature writing and the rest. Does that make me a journalist?
that does not make you a journalist. In
So
the
what
civil
is the minimum
service, in the
requirement?
civil service, let me say this way: you have trainings on the job. Those trainings you have just mentioned, they're trainings on the job. Now, but a journalist, we have institutions, regulatory institutions that train journalists. We have Nigeria Institute of Journalism. We have Institute of International Journalism, IIJ, which is in Lagos. All are in Lagos. They are institutions that are restricted in training professional journalists.
Okay, a graduate of mass communication is not a journalist?
A graduate that you have qualified it now. You said mass communication. Mass communication is an aspect of journalism. It's not full journalism.
So, professional or trained reporters that we have in our newspapers, in our televisions, are what you describe both as journalists, right?
That's true.
And anybody who does that but is not trained is not a journalist.
He's not a journalist.
Okay, but he does that very well also.
He ventures into it because, of course, that is maybe something that he found handy.
Okay, but he's still not a journalist.
He's not a journalist.
Okay, now we are.
Tajudeen want to
Yes,
say
there's something here that I think is missing when you want to know a journalist.
Okay.
I remember before 1992, a man who decided to practice and become a journalist, even with a standard 6 certificate, can be brought in to become a journalist and be trained on the job. In Nigeria as a training school, you did the time as a training school, Everson as a training school in Lagos. So those journalists at that time, before the advent of these modern guys in quotes, and before the Constitution of NUJ was written in 1996 or 97 or thereabout, the Constitution was very clear that if you have started practicing journalism, they call it journalism, but what we know is that practicing journalism is just when you are a newsroom guy, you are in the newsroom, you can be waved aside. But those who are coming after 1992 must have a basic minimum of a diploma in journalism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until recently, we have added diploma in mass communication.
Okay.
Like my friend has said, and my colleague, you see, being a journalist, it has a lot of things to go through before you become a journalist. First and foremost, many successful journalists in the world, they were trained in the newsroom. Some of them did not even go to school. What I mean by not go to school, they don't have a degree, they don't have a diploma, they were not available at that time. And I think we have many of them, Said Usunkuru, Adamu Soroma, and the rest of them, who later went to the university and obtained their degree. So when they do that, what they have learned in the newsroom has helped them to now become, what you call journalists.
Okay.
So, but when you are in newsroom as a reporter, definitely you are starting the basic journalism.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I think it has clarified my question about people who are doing it well, who may not have been in code trained. But let me get back to you again about journalism and hate speech. That is actually the focal point of our conversation. What has been the role of journalists in this regard in shaping the narrative on hate speech in Nigeria? What has been the contributions or the undoing of journalists in this regard?
Thank you,
Put
sir.
in mind sensational headlines.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful question. In an effort to cut down the excesses of journalism practice to hate speech contributions of journalism to hate speech prevention in Nigeria. That was the reason why, or one of the reasons why the bill for the freedom of speech was passed. And of course, when it came up, we thought, or the system thought that it's going to curtail the excesses of quote and unquote journalists indulging in hate speech. But it further strengthens the aspect of hate speech by, the proliferation of quacks in the profession who does not know the courts of practice as far as journalism is concerned. But I do know that the organization is working hard. Recently, there was a committee that was set from the NUG to work on state chapters on checking the quacks that are practicing journalism in the state chapters, so that they will be fished out.
When you say the quacks, what do you mean?
Well, in the context of journalism, what we call quacks are those people that just ventured into the work without being trained on the job, without having the requisite certificate to practice, and without, doing what is needed. Just like we said earlier, you find an engineer who is maybe writing on engineering in a paper. Tomorrow he will venture into writing other things that does not even concern him. So these are some of the people we call quack as far as journalism is concerned.
Okay.
Now, one of it is the bill.
Okay.
The second aspect of it is, censoring. We are also working on a censor board in the NUG as it is. We were talking with the Secretary General, National Secretary Shaibu Usman Lere, Liman, of putting in a committee that will be like a censoring board for the journalism profession.
For every newspaper that produces, you're talking about censors different from editors.
The censor board is we call it a board that will work alongside the media houses.
Are they different from the editors of in particular newspaper?
The editors are restricted to their media organizations.
Okay.
But this censor board will be a central body that will mediate.
I'll come back to you.
Thank you very much.
Alhaji Tijani, what has been the contribution of journalists in countering or furthering hate speeches in Nigeria?
Unfortunately for us, in the profession of journalism, like you rightly pointed out, you have the bad, the good, and the ugly. And you see, it will take a long time before even the censor board or whatever that the council is trying to do, or the national secretariat will have to work. And why are we indulged, or some journalists are indulged in this kind of practice we are talking about? Certain stories are coming intentionally as being false. And because some of these boys are not trained to decode and encode, they just rush into printing such stories. And I know when we were being trained as reporters in those days, we have people that we call gate men. If I'm in Kaduna, for instance, as I have, and I send a story to my headquarters in Lagos or Ibadan or wherever, it is the responsibility of that, my boss, my editor, to know which one is an 8th story or a 4th story. And that is why we have it in the ethics of journalism that if you call me a thief, I should be given the opportunity to say something whether I'm a thief or not. That is where the balance of this story has come from.
That's true.
Unfortunately now, any reporter can just say, I've called the man and his phone is not going.
And you continue with the story.
And you continue with the story. A recent happening that will look like a hate thing or something was the case of the Daily Trust and the Nigerian Army. The people at the headquarters did not look into such story that the reporter sent from the war front. And they should have done that. If a reporter has sent that we want to overrun certain people, and those people you think they are going to wait for you, so it's left for those people at the end to know which one is a hate story or a story that should not go.
Now, okay, are there, when you say a story that should not go,
yes.
For example, in Nigeria we have so many issues of what we may call underreporting.
Yes.
Boko Haram runs over a particular village,
Yes.
and then journalist feels he should let the whole world know about it, and then some other person thinks that no, these stories should not be.
With due respect, sir, don't let us get it wrong.
Okay.
A journalist doesn't give information; they give him information.
Okay.
That's the principal thing.
Okay.
They gave him information.
You will become, even if you are doing investigation.
What does that mean?
Somebody will
And
have
you
to
don't
tell you
create
the story.
stories.
You don't tell the story.
A journalist does not create
You
stories.
don't create stories.
Okay.
So if somebody said people are overrun and it's like a war or a crisis, and a journalist go to the town and said 1,000 people have been killed, who gave him the information?
So he's not allowed to see
No.
and count.
Yeah, yes, it is the law enforcement agent that will tell you the number of casualties.
Okay,
It's not
now,
your job.
on this note, sir,
Yes, sir.
do you see reports by unprofessional journalists
Yes.
as a source of hate speech?
Of course it is, because he didn't do his job well. He didn't confirm the story. In fact, when you are talking about hate speech, you didn't confirm your story. You didn't give the other party at the end of the story an opportunity to tell you exactly what happened. If you say an eyewitness account, for instance, that eyewitness account must be named, unless he asks that his name should not be mentioned. So these are some of the things that if you write deeply and you go deeply into looking for a story, and you get the story, and there's a confirmation, the person that even give you the confirmation, even if he has mistakenly give you the confirmation, will not be able to say anything again because you have quoted him.
Now, Oga Joshua, let me come here quickly, taking on him, that if you say an eyewitness, it should be named. But I also know as ethics, part of ethics of the journalism is that your source of information, if we want to be confident, must be given protection. On no account should you reveal that. How do you balance this?
That is,
And that's one.
yeah.
Two, just to give you so that you respond to them. The second one is, now I have asked on unprofessional journalists reporting, but there are some professionals that are said to be trained and they have the qualification and they will tell you they can flash the certificate and even from the Institute of Journalism or what have you, but yet they say some things. And I want to quote, I saw just a few days back, I saw an apology going to Tinubu, for instance, that he collapsed somewhere, and then when the report has been published, then later on the media is coming back to say apology, yes, because we didn't get
and that's a reputable newspaper, sir.
Confirmation about it before we publish it, and that's a reputable with qualified journalists. What can you say about that? Two things, don't forget.
Yeah.
Issue of
thank you very much.
Qualified person and unqualified person.
Thank
and
you very much, sir.
Concealment of source of
the first
information.
Issue you raised, very valid from my senior colleague here. That is why some report you see anonymous. Anonymous is because you conceal. The person doesn't want his name to be brought out.
Yeah, but we have seen cases where government institution will say, we want to, that person must be brought. How do you marry this?
Yeah, that person must be brought. You are subjecting it now to a legal procedure. Because if you are saying that person must be brought, are you contesting the report or you want to see the person? Because two things are virtually involved in this matter. If you are contesting that this report that has been brought to us is not correct, then that is a separate thing altogether. But if you want to see the person that reported, it is another thing altogether. The person may want to say, I don't want my name to be brought out. That was why my senior colleague said, you know, there are reports and there are also reports.
Okay.
Yes. Now the second aspect of it is professional reported that may later again be withdrawn by professionals. I would want to say that is equally unethical, because there is no how a report will go out and be withdrawn. You can withdraw the person, but you cannot withdraw the report. And therefore, in the first instance, that report must have been censored or edited from the editing room. You understand? And of course, the organization must take responsibility. But it is sad. It is sad today where you find that the editor may not be trained. The reporter may not be trained.
Please come in, because we are going for commercial break. But I can see that you are itching to say something.
Yes,
about please say.
So my colleague has actually hit it on the head. Those who actually establish media houses today, majority of them are not journalists. If you look at newspapers like The Punch, in the last 20, 30 years, you hardly see, we apologize for writing this.
Exactly.
If you apologize on behalf of any reporter, that reporter goes.
Yes.
You are given a job to write. And there's a law in journalism. If you don't know it, leave it.
Exactly.
You just leave it. That will not say that you are not going to report that issue another day. But you have to do an in-depth.
No, but there is this quest for breaking the news.
No, you don't break
you don't
news
break.
by creating war
You don't break by creating war.
or tense in the
You want our
society.
media also be organized and the rest.
No,
Anyway,
but I want to
we'll
let me
discuss,
ask
we'll
that.
discuss more.
Discuss
No,
it.
we'll
Let me-
discuss
let
more
me
on
ask
this.
for
We have
that.
to go on commercial break now.
Okay,
Viewers, as usual, you can reach us with your comments on the number being scrolled on the screen, and our Facebook account, our Twitter handle, our email address, and our office address is there. If you feel strongly that you want to meet us, you can meet us in that address. Thank you. When we come back, we shall continue. I can see that the issue is so much to talk, but we have to go on commercial break. Thank you. Stay tuned while we return after commercial break.
Hate speech is a speech that attacks, threatens, or insults a person or group on the basis of national origin, ethnicity, color, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, or disability. Join Reverend Father Stephen Ojakpa, MSP, Director of Dialogue and Ecumenism of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, and a member of the Central Coordinating Council of the Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, and Amir Muhammad Jamil Muhammad, Founding Director, Peace and Development Builders Global Initiative, and co-chairman of the Central Coordinating Council of the Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, in an anti-hate speech campaign for a better Nigeria. Speech is life. Hate can kill. Let's build our community free of hate, and we shall have a hate-free nation. This message is brought to you by Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, IDFP, and supported by the International Dialogue Center, KAICID.
Viewers, welcome back to the same episode that we've been after our commercial break. If you are just joining us, we are discussing hate speech and the role of journalism or the role of journalists. Before we went on break, in fact, the issues became very heated. But I'd like to start, I want to take you specifically on one thing that you have said before the commercial break, that journalists do not create stories. They are virtually told. But in many cases, you begin to see people arguing over what was reported by journalists. Who is then right? Let's give, for instance, in the crisis area, you will see journalists saying 10 persons died. Well, there will be people who will be talking, especially on the social media, we are eyewitness, we have counted 30 cops. Why are you reporting 10? Then, now what is happening?
Journalists at times are intentionally misled.
By who?
By those who censor story, corroborate. Those who corroborate, some people will not tell you the truth about the story. And that is why we are saying that in order to avoid this hate speech and the rest of them, there are certain stories that you have to drop. You don't need to publish your story to sell. If you are selling your story just because you put a headline and you want to sell your newspaper by telling lies, you are not helping the profession of journalism.
But you know, we know this axiom that says bad stories sell.
What is a bad story?
A bad story is a sensational story.
No.
A story that...
They told us about sensational in school too. But you see, a bad story of a man who decided to take his life or kill his children is a bad story. It's not an hate speech. It's a fact.
Yeah.
A man who decided to jump into a well and they call and bring out his corpse, it's not a bad story. It's a real. It's a factual. You can report that. But a story that you will not see. In fact, even in the religion of Islam, it is said that there are certain things that you must see, that there's a certain number of witnesses to say certain things before it becomes a reality, because it becomes a fact. It is not only when somebody just go in and call you to a side that he has an interest. He has given you a hate speech. And that is why I said the journalists at times are confused.
We know that there are some newspapers in Nigeria that carry different worldviews. If you read the story on Daily Trust, Punch, The Guardian, probably you will be getting 3 different or 4 different views. It's still part of the sensationalism and the biases you are talking about. And if you know that what a northerner will read, it may be different from what a southerner will read. How do we actually bridge this?
And on the same story.
On the same story. How do we bridge this divide?
Thank you very much. Firstly, in this context, we are not nationalistic in our own approach to issues in this country.
As journalists.
As journalists, we are not nationalistic. We attach our own sentiments to our own reportage. You know, if the issue there is, you don't wait a journalist is supposed to wait and hear the conclusion of the matter before reporting. You don't report on hearsay. You don't even report because your friend or your brother or somebody that is directly affected tells you the story. You must confirm. Confirmation, because this report you are sending, you are not sending it to that same person. You are sending it to over millions of people that will read and understand, to understand the direction. That is why today we are divided along religious lines, along political lines, along all sorts of things in this country. But journalism, as journalists, we are doing our level best from within the context of professionalism to call some people to order.
But I like that, if this is what is happening around the press gallery, you call it also,
Press
why,
center.
press
Center.
centers,
Yes.
why are we not having common stories? If you collaborate, you discuss and give pieces of advice, and the experience and the elderly ones among checkmate and do the gatekeeping that you say, why are we still having stories?
The issue there is, before discussing those issues, they would have sent those messages to their mother organizations,
Online media.
They would have sent those messages to their organizations before coming back. You know, reports go before evening, so that the next morning it will appear in the press.
Yes, and
That is one
let's
aspect
have
of
your
it.
take.
There are this newsroom policy. If no newspaper write the same story. It is now that these are answered things that we are talking, that one reporter will write a story and send it to another reporter said they spread it. They are spreading it, like you said,
Freelance.
because people have not taken their time to look at that story. If I don't go to an assignment and you give me a story, I'm not bound to use that story.
Exactly.
But people don't even go to assignment these days. One person can write and give it to 20 medium.
20 million.
And so if one medium misled the whole world, that means the other 19 medium are also involved.
It's been a very worthwhile time spending with you. I know you have so many issues, but thank God that you're journalists. You have media within which you air most of your views. So you could also help and continue to promote campaign against hate speech in your different respects. Let's most sincerely thank Alhaji Tajuddin for finding time to be on this program.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Joshua, thank you for coming. And to my co-anchor, thank you. Our viewers, this is where we have brought and we're drawing a curtain on this episode of hate speech and the role of journalism in Nigeria. We will come your way again next week, same time on same station, with another episode of this interesting and fully loaded package. Don't forget, you can reach us on the number being scrolled on the screen, our email address, our Twitter handle, and our Facebook account, and our office address for comments and observation. Thank you. Bye-bye until next time.